Americans have been gaslit into thinking that Ukraine is like the best country ever, and it's like it's insane. And again, all of these things, these lies play into the enemies of Middle Americans, populists, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
Like when Michael McFaul, this professor, I think he's a professor at Stanford. He was also an ambassador to Russia. When he says that there is no such thing as an innocent or neutral Russian, he's thinking about. I mean, I've said this point. I've made this point several times. He's thinking about deplorables.
Yes.
Like I think that the Russian is a stand-in for the kind of American that they hate.
Yes.
This kind of backwards person who needs to be dealt with, for the brave new world to truly emerge. And I think that's important to remember. But of course, conservative pundits and Republican politicians have completely failed in actually informing their base and looking out for their interests.
Mm-hmm. Are there pundits on the right, well, quote unquote, on the right, or politicians even, that have disappointed you with this scenario, with this current subject, that maybe you thought over the COVID years were coming around a bit to seeing things more clear and being more red-pilled on everything? Are there some bigger names that you think, you've disappointed me, I thought you were better at this point?
Disappointed I would have to have stock in these people to be disappointed in them, but kind of like people that are just kind of reminding us that it's very easy to denounce the Iraq War years after the fact.
Yes.
Right? It's really easy to be anti-interventionist when there's nothing going. It's easy to be anti-interventionist in peacetime. It's not easy to be anti-interventionist on the brink of wartime. And so people that I think are reminders of that, Josh Hawley, for one, who has, Josh Hawley has pretty much, I think, done everything or supported everything just short of a no-fly zone. But there's not a whole lot of daylight between Josh Hawley and guys like Tom Cotton. Donald Trump has, I think, recently suggested using nuclear submarines to deter Russian aggression. I think that's insane. And I mean, he's really just saying, it's not because he's thought this through. He's just saying it because, well, the conservative media is saying Biden is weak because he's not, establishing a no-fly zone or like doing more, whatever that, like, what does that mean? Doing more? We're supplying tons of weapons. We've got tons of troops on Ukraine's border right now. There's like a total media blackout about this, right? Like really ominous that it seems to be like a kind of force buildup at the same time that we're pumping tons of weapons into Ukraine. The Wall Street Journal reported recently that we have been covertly supplying Ukraine with a bunch of Soviet-era anti-aircraft weapons. So there's basically a lot of stuff that we're doing that the public is not being made aware of. But then you have politicians who are saying, well, we need to do more. It's like, what does that mean? And so that has become like a Republican talking point. Biden is weak on Russia. And so I think Trump hears that and he just thinks like, well, then that means I got to be tough on Russia. So we're going to sail nuclear subs in as close as we can get them to like Russian waters to send a message. It's totally insane. But I'm not surprised at all that Hawley, has done that, and I'm not surprised that Trump is saying that stuff. I will say that the people that have been good on this that I can name off the top of my head, MTG of course has been good.
Yes.
Thomas Massey, I think he's been the best because he has not only stood up on the right issues, but he's also explained in depth why the sanctions that we're doing don't make sense. Why a no-fly zone is suicidal. Why continuing to supply like the most destructive weapons we have to Ukraine is pretty like at some point Russia's going to think like, okay, you guys are basically in this war against us, or it basically just creates the conditions where we're moving in the direction of getting directly involved. Like Thomas Massey has been really cerebral. I really appreciate him on this, and so I think he's probably been the best on this issue. And I've never cared too much to. I've never been like a Thomas Massey stan, but I have to say I'm really impressed by it because again, it is really difficult to be anti-interventionist right now. So anybody who's standing up in the political arena on this issue, I think this is when it matters.